Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule once again with Jarrod Cooper, Aron Eisenberg. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we've got J.G. Hertzler joining us, and you know him as Martok from Deep Space Nine and a couple other roles in Star Trek. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Discovery a little later, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back with the Seventh Rule.
We can chat and have a good time.
All right. So, see my background?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And do a 3-2.
All right.
Yeah, I could do that.
No, not you, sir.
I'll do the beat.
5, 1, 4, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Seventh Rule. I'm Ryan T. Husk with Jarrod Cooper, Aron Eisenberg, and special guest J.G. Hertzler.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yay! JG, thank you for coming and joining us today.
I didn't know that we were supposed to.
Oh, you want to talk to JG? Just a minute.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Finally. I don't know who that clown was.
Samuel Jackson stops by every now and then for a burger. You know, he likes the good. This is a tasty burger, and he stops by here for that. So, but he's got to go anyway. All right, yeah, cool.
And JG is joining us via phone. He's got a very, very golden house and room, and he doesn't want to share that with the rest of the world. So he called in to join us on our show today. So very excited to have him. And we've got lots of questions from our fans on the show.
You understand, Aron, I have to be very, very careful, because I live out here in the middle of nowhere, basically a cornfield surrounded by nothing, and except a lake. And I can't disclose my location. It could be very, very dangerous.
He's in witness protection, Aron.
What, Jarrod?
He said he's in witness protection.
Well, it's a good thing that you told us, because we had you on Google Maps, so we were going to share that, but we'll take that down.
No, that would be bad. No, that would
be bad.
You could probably, I'm sure. Have you ever seen Fringe, by the way? Talk about Star Trek. Have you ever seen Fringe?
Oh, I did. I was a big fan of that show. It was great.
I'm a huge fan. I didn't see it when it was on. I just binged it. I watched 5 years of it in like 3 days.
Wow.
And
you got a lot of time.
It was, it's one, but you get stuck, you get addicted.
Yes.
This whole thing about binging is it's very addictive. And I did it with Breaking Bad, and I did it. That's what got me started in Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy. But I read Fringe was J.J. Abrams was the creator, writer, producer, composer of some of the music. What a talent, my Lord!
And Leonard Nimoy was on that show.
And Leonard Nimoy was there.
Yeah.
And that I didn't expect him. William Bell showed up, and
yes.
John Noble. An incredible actor. All the actors were wonderful. Appeared out of nowhere. I don't know who they are, but they were brilliant. But the writing there.
And then they came on set. They did appear from somewhere.
Yeah, well, I think mostly Canada. Otherwise, I would have known some of their names.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Did you ever have an audition for it?
No. In fact, Ira wanted me to go up and do 4400, but
4400.
But I couldn't go. Yeah, I was. What's that?
Sorry, I was just saying that was a good show too. I forgot that they did that. I enjoyed 4400.
Yeah, I was teaching at Cornell then, so I couldn't leave. It wasn't as a quote unquote adjunct professor. I just couldn't walk away and say, "Oh, take my classes for a while." I got to go do 4400.
I didn't know you taught at Cornell.
Yeah, it's on Intro to Acting. Despite
it
what
was
you
just
might
like
think.
a 15-minute course.
No, it was about 5 minutes, and it was online. It was online. It was just, here, buy this book it's written by Robert O'Reilly, and it's called Ocular Dynamics and the American Stage.
Ocular Dynamics.
So you love my idea. So we got to do it. We have to do it.
I love your idea, and I think you have to have him on there, but you must contact him earlier and just get him. In fact, I'll have to do it for him because he's semi-brain dead at his old age, and I'll write some chapters for him that we can discuss.
Now,
chapter type.
Since we're talking about Bob, I actually was thinking about this morning. Did you guys just become friends on our show, which then continued on after, as you guys are always doing conventions together, and you guys have a wonderful rapport. You're on stage, you do the Klingon Hour, you guys get dressed up, you meet the fans, and you're damn hilarious on stage together. Did you know each other prior to Deep Space Nine, or did you build that?
No, we met.
Deep Space Nine?
Literally met in the makeup room up there on that second floor of at Paramount, and
Really?
the rest is history, man. I mean, I had to kill him to get onto the show, and it's a strange way to start out a wonderful relationship, but yeah, that was the beginning. And
wow, I didn't know that. And you guys got such a that's what's the beautiful thing about sometimes not only our show but the actor's life and the relationships we build, and some as we live a gypsy like life, people come in and go out, and others stay, and those friendships become bonds for lifetime, and that friendship that you guys have. And remember, we did Reptile Rangers together, and you had Bob in that with me.
That's right. Yeah, I rip that out and watch it on occasion. I do, because you guys are mainly to watch you as Spike, the weapons specialist.
You can't just say Reptile Rangers and not.
Okay. So JG did a short little film called Reptile Rangers where it was actually, why don't I let JG talk about it, because he tell him how it came about and what it's about.
It was in, I think we shot it in 2004 in the area where I lived up there in Tahunga, California.
Yes.
And
that's correct.
And we shot it also in Glendale at the Starbucks in Glendale. And I got permission from Glendale, probably from Charles Schultz himself. I got permission from Starbucks from corporate in Seattle to be able to do this. But yeah, it was about the Reptile Rangers were people that protected the giant reptiles that walk among us, like insurance brokers and Broadway and Hollywood producers, because we want to save those big guys for future generations.
Right. But it was a play on the Australian guy.
That's the thing. It came out in 2004, and right after that, Steve Irwin was killed.
Yeah.
So it was basically a Valentine to the Crocodile Hunter.
Right.
Not the Crocodile Hunter. What was the name of Steve Irwin's show?
It was the Crocodile Hunter, wasn't that?
Well, we can look it up.
He was the Crocodile Hunter.
Yeah.
I watch his family show because they just got a new one out.
Yeah, now his teenage kids are living his legacy.
Yeah, Bindi. Yeah, my daughter and I sat and watched every episode of that. Just adored it. He's like, oh, look at the tail. He's a great feeder.
Yeah.
Mikey, look at the size of that tail.
Oh, she's beautiful. She's a beaut.
It was a wonder. He was spectacular, and it was like we all got stabbed in the heart when you sit there on the couch waiting and heard the news come on, and oh my Lord.
And it was.
But anyway, it was a tribute to him, and we didn't hunt the beast. We hunted producers. We had a giant Hollywood producer as the first guy we tagged,
and that was played by Steve Austin.
Yes, Steve
Yes.
Austin.
Yeah.
And we
From Babylon 5.
put this giant beating red flashing light on his ear at night at Starbucks. Because
Tagged
that's
him,
the
threw him in the
giant
van.
Hollywood. Yeah. Anyway, then he was getting restless, and you had a big trank gun. And Spike, the weapons specialist, had to shoot him.
So that was me.
giant
I was
tranquilizer
Spike.
gun.
I was Spike, the weapon specialist.
Yes,
So-
you were. Steph, it's all right, mate. It had to be done.
Oh yeah, who played the head guy, the quote unquote Steve Irwin type guy? What was his name?
Now that's another thing. Stephen Foster, who is
That's it.
among my closest friends of all time. I met Stephen Foster when we did, in 1985, we did the Glory of Easter at Robert Schuller's Crystal Cathedral together.
Wow.
I entered the cathedral preceded by 50 USC Trojan drummers on a white stallion at the back of the church, the back of the cathedral, walked down a 3-foot wide ramp on that horse to the altar area. With extras, there were about 180 people in the show because there were extras.
Mm-hmm.
It was this mammoth thing. And Alan Blumenfeld was in it, and Barry Cutler, and Stephen Foster, and myself, and 6 other, Miano, Bob, is it? I can't think of his first name now. But anyway, Barry and Stephen and Alan Blumenfeld and myself have remained, as you say, the family that formed in that little, it was a ridiculous thing we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that family formed, and we have stuck together forever and ever. Barry still sends me a birthday card every birthday. I see Steph, and I talk to his wife all the time, Lady Foster from South Africa. And nobody looked better in khaki shorts than Stephen did.
I thought I looked
you look good. You look good too.
Yeah. my little skinny legs popping out of those shorts. It's pretty darn sexy, my friend. I think I got like 3 phone numbers from that little short.
Do you remember that Steve Austin he must have weighed about 400 pounds at that point. And you come rushing into frame, tackle him, and take him down.
That's right, my friend. That's the way I roll. Just like I would have taken Martok down and his crew on the show if I had to. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, anyway, I couldn't agree more. The families, the little families that come together in casts, and you got a chance to work on DS9 for 7 years, right? You were there from the beginning.
I was.
Right?
Yes. They had me audition for Martok, but they didn't think I was.
You turned it down?
Yeah, I turned it down. They didn't, and then they didn't think I was tall enough. They didn't think it would work.
No,
you were trying to sell it, but
you were just too obvious a choice. They had to go against type, I think.
Yeah,
they
did.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you to do something if you can for me. Do you, with that wonderful Australian accent, do you think you can remember any of your lines? If not, we have one where you can say the line in an Australian accent and how it changes, so we can see how it changes Martok.
You mean, a line from Martok?
Yeah, like I am a loyal soldier of the Empire. I would rather die than dishonor my uniform. So as Martok, but with an Australian accent.
I'm a loyal soldier of the Empire, and I'd rather die than not. I guess it makes sense.
No, let's try it again. Here we go. I am a loyal soldier of the Empire. I would rather die than dishonor my uniform.
I'm a loyal what? Soldier. Line.
You want me to text it to you? I can text it to you.
I'm a loyal soldier of the Empire, and I would rather die than dishonor the Empire, dishonor my uniform, soil my uniform.
Well, that Judy Brown would not be happy right now. Judy Brown would say, "Well, let's try again." Do you remember Judy Brown, the script supervisor?
Oh yeah, little Judy, yeah.
Judy was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
For a minute, I thought you were talking about Judith, something Caitlin Brown, whom I can't stand.
Well, let's not talk about that.
It's already on there. We're broadcasting live, eh?
We are live.
No, Mike. Listen, Aaron, you've been to Australia and New Zealand a few times, haven't you?
I love how you just dropped into the accent at the end there. Yes, I've been to New Zealand once. I've been to Australia several times.
Did we go?
Noise.
Were we together?
That's how I get into the Australian noise. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Noise. Yeah, it's bitter. It's much bitter. You know, they don't. The New Zealanders don't say. They say bitter, which is a lovely word. But I met Jason Momoa on one of those trips. Were you on that trip? When
No,
Jason Momoa
he specifically said not to let me come along. Aquaman has a problem with me, so I don't know what it is.
It was probably he was just embarrassed because you know he's built like a brick shit house. But
I could take him.
You know,
I could take him. You trust me.
Him. And it was obvious to anybody who saw you two together. Yeah.
Well, he liked to hold me for some reason, like a little doll. Okay.
I'm telling you, this guy.
Ryan has a question for you. We have some questions from our fans.
Actual questions, right?
Actual questions. They're nice. They're nice questions.
They're nice questions. All right.
Now, Ryan, take it away.
Star Trek. I hope that's okay. But they're going to be.
Yeah, let's get back on to Star Trek. That is why we're here. But you know what? I know the people love just to hear you talk, man, because I know I do.
So
I do too.
This is something I was wondering, and Aaron, I'd like to hear your answer for this as well. You know, you get the script for the episode before you shoot it. You kind of look it over and kind of work on your lines. And I was wondering, was there ever a moment where you received one of these scripts before an episode where you thought, this is Martok. This is the most exciting moment for Martok, like where there was just some lines or a moment or a scene that was just more exciting to you as an actor to portray Martok than all the others?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I was distracted. And my sister rang in on my cell phone saying while you were talking, is there some script that was better for me as Martok?
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
You're most excited about that just really defined the character more than the others.
I think that would have to be the fathers and sons, or sons and daughters. I think it was called. Maybe fathers and daughters. I can't remember.
Brothers and sisters. Is it a Coldplay album?
It could have been brothers. It could have been. It could be. Could be. She'll be right.
It was sons and daughters.
There you go. Computer has spoken. Computer has spoken. Sons and daughters. I don't think that was Australian though, but
Sons and daughters. No, it wasn't. It all took place in Australia, but that was a twist at the end.
Okay, why? Why that script, JG?
Because I had the line in it that was cut eventually.
Really?
I believe it was. I had the line that said, what's his name? Worf says to me, he says, but that is not the Klingon way. And I said, Worf, anything a Klingon does is the Klingon way. And that expressed to me more Martok than anything.
So take that line and do it with an Australian accent as Martok.
Right, Worf, anything a Klingon does is a Klingon fuck.
So I'm on this kick. I think it's so funny when we do these.
Anything a Klingon does is the Klingon way.
Just doesn't have the same oomph. Interesting. For me, Ryan, to answer your question, there wasn't anything one specific because, like I answered in a previous episode, every script was a new chapter for me. So everything I got was like, oh, okay, that's Nog, and they never really took Nog into a direction where I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I was really seeing it going this direction. There were episodes where because Nog was always going in a particular direction, if that makes sense. Once he especially got into Starfleet, and I think when Heart of Stone, when he asked Sisko, to sponsor him into Starfleet, and he has that scene on why. That was probably a very defining moment for the character, where they really took him and said, "This is what we're going to do. This is going to be Nog." So if I would pick anything in the show, that was pretty self-defining of who Nog is inside and what he's to become. I would say.
Aaron,
we got 1 second, JG. We got to take a little break. It's just for the commercial for the show because we're on Odyssey One, which is a radio show. So hold that. I'll start it. We'll come right back to you, JG, to respond as you did. And go ahead, Ryan, if you want to get us out of it.
No, that's you just said it. We'll be right back.
All right, we'll be right back. Okay, great. So now we're on break, and we'll come right back. Ryan, bring us back and go right to JG.
JG, do you have any questions for us about the show before we come back, or everything good?
So we don't have to go through the FCC for stuff like that.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
All right. Here we go, Ryan.
Okay. And we're back on the 7th rule with Mr. J.G. Hertzler, as well as Aron Eisenberg and Jarrod Cooper. How you doing, JG?
Good. Now, the 7th rule, I assume that that refers to the rules of acquisition.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Do you know what it means?
And what is it?
Yeah,
no, I don't. What is the 7th rule?
It means keep your ears open.
Oh, well, that would be a fine rule. That's a good rule. Yeah, that sounds like perfect.
It's
perfect for the Ferengi.
Yeah, and it's perfect for a podcast, a show, So,
yeah.
So you were going to say something.
I was going to ask, Aaron, the books that I wrote called Left Hand of Destiny, there's a Ferengi, a young Ferengi named Phar, Phar. And basically, as I wrote him, I had you, and it was you. It was Nog. It was Nog in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you haven't done it, I would love you to take try to read one of those 2 books, because Phar is an incredibly important character and very funny, and I know you'll get a kick out of it because it was based on you. It was based on Nog. It was Nog. I don't know why I couldn't name him Nog. I think it's because Nog already existed. It happens 2 weeks after, really just 3 weeks after the end of our show is the time period. It's a trip back to Kronos. We're going back to Kronos. Worf and I are headed back to Kronos.
Is it Martok and the search for Phar?
Phar.
No, but I've done a thing for a fundraiser. I did a sketch of Worf and I golfing. Yeah, and it was it raised some money for them. But if you get a chance, do that. Look at Left Hand of Destiny and look for Phar. The only reason I named him Phar was because I could, when he got off the intercom or the communicator, he could easily say "far out," and that's the reason.
Right. I thought it was, hey, you know what? You're never far away.
Aw, you're never that far.
So JG, about that book, was it originally designed to be 2 books, or was it something that was split up along the way? Because it was released as part 1 and part 2.
I think it was. I don't know. I don't remember, because you'd think they would ask me to write 1, and I got it. It became so complicated. I had to split it into 2 books, I guess. I don't remember. My daughter was born between the first book and the second book, and so we got to the second book.
Physically, she came between the 2 books.
Yeah, she was. No.
Oh,
Aaron, no.
Okay, I was confused. I'm sorry.
She was reading the 1 book in utero, and Yeah.
I was because they were released really quick together as part of the DS9 relaunch.
What's that?
I said those two books were released really close to each other because of the Deep Space Nine relaunch they were a part of.
What's the Deep Space Nine relaunch?
That might have been why you couldn't have Nog, because the books people picked up at the end of Deep Space Nine and released books every month, sort of continuing.
Oh, right.
And Nog was back on the station in his engineering type position, so that might have been why he couldn't be in your book.
Well, I've read a couple of, I've recorded a couple of books for Dr. Schoen, Lawrence Schoen, who's a Star Trek fanatic and a linguist like Mark Okren, about Barsk. It's it's difficult to explain, but it's a two-parter too. It takes place 60,000 years in the future, but I would really like to talk to somebody. I've got to do that, actually. I really wanted to record my books because the story is wonderful.
Yeah.
They asked me to do a sort of a Arthurian legend story for Martok and include everybody that I could.
Wow.
And I did. And it's really
if you were going to talk to somebody about doing audiobooks, I would go ahead and do that now, because they took about I would say 5 to 10 year break from them because they weren't really selling, but they've gotten to the point now where Star Trek is back and it's big, and they're starting to record audiobooks for those monthly books again like they used to. So if you had a hard time getting it done in the past, I would get a hold of somebody over there now and see if they could do it.
I never ask anyone, but I should. Is John Van Sitters still involved, or is it the people that I know are gone, I think.
Yeah, there was a big thing because Pocket lost it, and it's now Gallery Books that are handling the Star Trek books. But I'm sure that we could get you the contact for somebody over there.
Yeah.
Well, I did these other things for Macmillan Publishing, so I'll check on that and see if I can talk to somebody at Gallery Books.
Well, those were Klingon romance novels, and I don't think those sold very well. So I think you should try and stay away from the Macmillan side of it that you were doing.
No. I didn't do a romance novel. This is a sci-fi novel in 2 parts, but I would like to do a romance. That's a Klingon romance novel.
There you go.
Good idea.
With Far, as the Cupid of the book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's like Johnny Wad, or what was the name of that? What was the name of that porn actor? That's the well, it's like
Johnny Wad.
Ron Jeremy. Yeah, the Ron Jeremy of Star Trek.
Yes, I think that's what's missing in the Star Trek world right now is the Ron Jeremy.
I thought that was.
Yeah. Chevy says, isn't he doing the Star Trek?
Maybe that's why Jarrod's eyes are always so big. Maybe the whole time it's been Jarrod.
We've got the meat.
Gowron approves. So Ryan has another question for you. One of our fans.
Well, hang on. Before we get to that, I actually do have a question I want to know from the both of you, the answer to. And both of you, after you were done with Deep Space Nine, you both went over for 1 episode, or possibly 2, but I think 1 episode on Star Trek Voyager. And I wanted to know, I mean, after doing years and years on Deep Space Nine and then stepping foot onto, a new set with new people and everything, what was there like a difference, an immediate difference? Like, was the lighting brighter? Was the mood lighter? Were the people friendlier or less friendly? I mean, what was your experience? Or was your trailer bigger because you're a special guest star? What was your
trailer?
I think I had to share a trailer with Garrett Wong. No, I didn't. I'm just kidding. So
I think I had to share. Yeah.
No. What were you gonna say? You had to share with who?
I had to share a trailer with one of the security guards at the gate.
Russ was the big security guard. Russ. Remember Russ?
That's right. It was Russ.
Russ, Russ wouldn't let me on the stage in the very beginning of our show for a while because he thought
intelligent man.
Who I was. And I said, I'm not. Yeah. He goes, get out of
No,
here.
you're not.
All right, have you kicked out of here. True story.
But you get that a lot, don't you, Aaron?
Yeah. I mean, even Nanak said, stop, coming into my trailer. You creep. Yeah, I got. And
Yeah.
they all did. Yeah, they all did.
What was the question? There was a question there. I forgot the question, Ryan. What was the question?
There was a question hidden in there somewhere, and that is, what was the difference when you stepped in on the Voyager set, if any, as compared to your years on
show? Yeah, Aaron, what show did you do on Voyager?
I did the show Voyager. You mean what episode?
Episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initiations. I played the stepchild of Klingons, the Kazon warrior. So I actually got to play something similar to what you play, but a child who had to earn his name. Jarrod. Jar Carden? What?
Far.
Yeah.
Well, I played a Herodian, and I had to wrestle with 7 of 9. It's very funny. 7 of 9, Jerry. It was all about Tunkakti. It was about a gladiatorial ship, basically, where gladiatorial bouts took place and only one survived. So they went and captured who are they? No, not the Imparis. The Vortas. Was the Vortas?
No, that was.
I know it was.
It's all starting to mix together.
No, I know, but there was a guy. Jeffrey Combs played the lead.
Who did Jeffrey Combs not play? Is the real question.
Yeah, no, he.
Should be
anyway,
Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah, he was Pank, but I can't remember what the name of the alien was.
But what was your experience like on moving over to the other set? Did you know the crew? And I asked that because I knew the crew. But when I don't know what year you did Voyager, but I did Voyager in their second season, I believe, and that was the same crew that we had for the first year of DS9. But when did you?
Oh, right.
And what was your experience with the cast and the crew? Did you find it that they were as much as open arms as I was to you when you came to DS9, or did you feel it was different? Personally, for me, when I went to Voyager, it was literally like walking across a road and being part of the same family. I had a wonderful time with Robert Beltran and built up a really nice friendship with him. And who was exceptionally wonderful on the show, and I don't know if you had the same experience, JG, because I'm not sure when you did yours, but was Jennifer. She was one of the nicest people I ever had the honor to meet and work with, and I didn't work with her very much, but she was so nice. She was so wonderful, and when she left the show, I was really, really sad, because she was really a special person. She was very, very kind.
Jennifer Lean, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't know her at all. She wasn't. I guess I must have done the 4th or 5th season. It was.
Your episode was.
What I did was with The Rock. Dwayne Johnson, and.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was on that show, on the Tunkakti show, and. I don't think we might have crossed paths in some of the martial arts stuff, but at one point I had a wonderful stunt. Well, what was the set like? It was different. It was very bright, as you say. The lighting was different because just about every scene that I was in as a Klingon was dark. So there was a lot of light. And
and they do that on Discovery too. I noticed on Kronos, everything is super dark. It's interesting as you mentioned that you feel that way on DS9. I apologize. I kind of cut you off. I didn't mean to, so please don't get angry. I don't like it when you're angry. Interesting that they're still doing the same thing. I didn't know you had that. Anyway, sorry. Interesting.
Fascinating remark. Well worth the interruption. No, listen. I had to wrestle with 7 of 9 for 8 days with Jerry, and she called us. She was worried that she wouldn't look accomplished enough to be able to do this martial arts stuff. So she called a special rehearsal on a Saturday. So everybody came in on a Saturday morning, to rehearse the fight sequences, and she called it. We were all there at 9 o'clock, except her. She didn't come until about 10:30, and so when she finally showed up, they said, "Oh, she's late. And finally showed up. The fight choreographer, and it wasn't Danger Dan. It was an Asian expert. He was incredible, an incredible fighter. He said, "No, take your time to warm up, Jerry," because she said, "No, I'm warm. I'm fine. I'm ready to go." He said, "All right." So the first thing I did was I had to do a spin around, which I can no longer do, and hit her in the middle of the back with the heel of my hand. And so she thrusts herself forward and goes flying forward. And the first move she did, I hit her, or I pulled the punch in the back, and she went flying forward. But the first step she took, she pulled a muscle in her butt. Pulled a gluteus maximus, and she was down. And it was like Jerry down. And there were like 15 guys immediately trying to help and, rub out that Charlie horse in her ass. And it was.
I heard you even tried to help out.
No, I was too. Brandon Braga was. She came with Brandon Braga. Braga was standing there, and I could see that he was mesmerized by the fact that there were like 15 guys leaping at her to rub out the Charlie horse.
What a bunch of good guys. Wow.
Heroes on the set of Voyager. Heroes.
It's a family show.
It's a very close family.
Very close family. But I had a great time. I had more of a familiarity with Enterprise, oddly enough, because Scott Bakula and I had worked together on Quantum Leap a long time earlier. And I had a scene, the whole show was about, I played his Klingon lawyer. He was on trial in a Klingon ship. And that was pretty wonderful. And it was dark, so it felt like home.
It's always dark.
Yeah, it's dark.
Poor Klingons, always living in the dark. They never get any light.
No, we're not. Light. Yeah, light doesn't. Even the word light doesn't seem to apply to the Klingon culture, does it? No, I can't think of anything that's light. Yeah.
There's got to be somebody that comes around and goes and points that out to the other Klingons. Why are we always in the dark? Can we have some damn light? And
save that one for Galaxy Quest 2. Yeah.
Well, I have my ideas for Orville that never seem to get.
Have you pitched anything?
Have I what?
Have you pitched anything to them?
No, I would pitch too much like Spaceball stuff, and I don't think Seth wants to go in that direction. I think I wanted Spaceballs in Orville, but I think he wants to.
I do love Orville. I do love the show.
Oh, you do?
I haven't
about that. Yeah.
Why do you love it so much?
Yeah.
Well, I love the balance between. I thought Galaxy Quest accomplished the impossible. They made fun of the genre. They made fun of conventions, and then they go on a real adventure, and we went right along with them. And then they come out of it, and they were able to make fun of the genre again. I think for a writer to do that is an impossible job, and that's Orville walks that same line.
Yeah,
and I think it's extraordinary that way.
Well, because they're paying homage to it at the same time as they're making.
Oh,
fun
absolutely.
Of,
But it's not condemning. It's a wonderful homage. And thank you for saying without the H. I love you.
Well, I wanted more of a homage for.
Yeah, and you would. And you would. Yeah.
There was too many great opportunities when I was watching the first season that they just, I just felt could have been so hilarious. But
I don't think I saw the first. I don't think I saw the first one. I've only seen a couple episodes, but I enjoyed it immensely.
The first one was a little rough around the edges. I think they went too hard on the comedy, and I think that they got the feedback that I think most people thought when we saw it, which was hey, you've really got some potential here, but you don't have to hit the poop and fart and dick jokes at every scene. Like, let's hear some stories. Let's really sink our teeth into it. And after the first episode, there were a couple changes, and you could see, visually, some of the makeup was a little different, and they hit the jokes a little less hard and actually gave us good stories. And I think Orville's doing really well right now because of it.
Yeah, well, they took some good notes then.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly the way I saw it. It was a great balance between taking themselves seriously and not. But it takes a while. I don't know what the first season. I don't think I've ever seen the first season of DS9 except for the pilot, which I was in as a Vulcan very briefly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. How fun was
that? Was scary. Sorry, Ryan. I have to say something. Hold that question. That was terrifying. I was watching DS9, and I saw you on it.
I've got it in my background right now.
Yeah. What? Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah, it's a scary-looking Vulcan, right?
Yeah, you are one scary-looking Vulcan, my friend.
Yeah, well, that's me. I was.
We got you on screen.
The stunt guy was just about 10 pounds heavier than me, and I was supposed to get blown up out of the throne and just blown up through the roof of the spaceship, through the top of the ship, when it was destroyed, and where I was killed and several other people on the bridge were killed. But
little did you know that they would
the
be
machine, the
Go
stunt machine, yeah, the stunt machine that was supposed to rip me out of the chair and take me up above was set exactly to my weight. So when this guy got on, he was about 10, maybe 20 pounds heavier than me. When it got blown up and they had him in the chair ready to be exploded up, the spring mechanism was overrocked, so it couldn't pull him fast. So he sort of ascended into heaven. and as well, as fitting as that might be for my ascension, it did not work for the explosion, so they cut that out. But anyway, I didn't last long. But
go ahead.
Like Seinfeld, if you watch the first series, the first year of Seinfeld, you can see all the regulars beginning to find who they are. Mm-hmm. And it's not as funny. It's not as crisp.
Not at all. No.
It's just not there. But by the second season and the third season, they're all in the groove, and it's a world of difference. So I'm sure that even to accomplish that in one episode of Orville, and then the second one be so much better, that's great. That's great.
They definitely ironed out the kinks after an episode. They certainly got because I remember that's the first thing I said was they said there's too many poop and fart jokes. There's got a lot of potential, but it's not going to work if it's just a laugh factory, if it's just a sitcom. And
yeah, you're right.
They obviously got those same notes, and now we're actually gripped. We're loving the stories. We're enjoying it. And the jokes work when they happen. Like a couple days ago, the episode 5 of the second season probably had the funniest scene of any of the episodes so far, and it's just because they followed the characters rather than forcing in these jokes,
The real funny stuff comes from truthful characterization. If you try to do it as a stand-up comic, it's just awful.
That's right.
Yeah, people will not laugh.
That's true.
I
felt. Oh, go ahead, Ryan. I just wanted. Well, hold on one second. I just wanted to say, I still feel they missed some really great opportunities for comedy, at least in the first season. That would have been a great homage to Star Trek. Like the doors opening all the time. It's something we take for granted in our world of Star Trek, and I felt Orville could have really had fun with those doors at times, even in just 1 or 2 episodes or sporadically throughout the show. Like there's always a guy fixing them, they're never working on his ship.
Right.
Or there's a Roomba going down, down the hallway, vacuuming, the ship, and every so often somebody over it,
I love the idea of, if that turbo lift didn't work for some reason, is there a stairwell somewhere that
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. God, I'm so tired. It's like 50 levels, you know?
Well, they have one episode where the guy, Dan, was suggesting that they have elevator music. And that was some of the funniest moments on the show, is this guy saying he interrupts in the middle of, the captain and commander, they're in the middle of a fight, and he walks into the elevator, and of course they stop their fight, and he says, this could really use some elevator music. What do you guys think? And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, just why don't you get on that? They're just trying to shush him away. But then wouldn't you know it, later on in the episode, they come in and they're fighting again, and he shows up and there's elevator music. He's like, hey, what do you think of elevator music I added in? They're like, great, yeah, it's great, leave us alone. But it's really funny.
I love it.
And when I was watching Voyager, the first couple episodes, it was so funny because Chakotay would be mad. He's like yelling at Taurus, and he walks through the doors, and the doors for some reason always know when to open and close. They know when someone's going to finish a line, or when they're going to keep talking forever, and they just stay open whether the person moves or not. So Chakotay's having this conversation with Taurus, and then he walks through the door, turns around, looks at her, and delivers his line, and then the doors close. And I'm like, how did it know that he was done talking? He didn't walk away, and I wanted Orville to do that. And Seth's character goes, and that's the last time I'm going to tell you, figure it out. And the doors stay open. And he's like, he's just kind of like looking, and she's like, and another thing, that uniform needs to be regulation, and that's it. And he looks around, and the doors are still open. Goes, well,
that's right. Or the opposite, where he's saying, and there's one more thing I want to tell you. And he's just like, wait.
Or it's funny how they're always open when somebody's running to it, right? Like Seth, hightails it off the bridge, and the door's open right on time. And I would be great if he runs and they open, but then they close real quick, and he slams right into the doors. Come on! Can somebody fix these doors? So throughout the whole season, you always just see somebody, whether it's in the background or, somewhere, just fixing and working on a door. I don't know.
I love it. And the occasionally you got to stick your hand in like you do on elevators to keep the thing from closing.
Yes, exactly. Anyway. Missed opportunities. What can you say?
Well, there's still potential for the future. I mean, they're only a season and a half in, so there's a chance.
Maybe. Yeah, but I hear he wants to go to. More Star Trek stuff. Not less funny. But I think we have to take a break here, real quick, and then we can come back and keep chatting here with J.G. Hertzler. Good. That was a good break. And now we come back. Want to bring us back, Ryan?
Yeah, we can do another full section because we have a 90-minute slot today.
Just taking another sip of my LaCroix.
Yeah, let's get some of these questions from the fans to JG.
Yeah. What the hell is LaCroix anyway?
LaCroix is like
flavored water.
Actually, I'll tell you what LaCroix is as soon as we come back. We're going to come back right now in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the 7th Rule. And during the break, J.G. Hertzler, otherwise known as Martok, otherwise known as the Alpha Herogen on Voyager, and that Vulcan Klingon guy from a couple scenes in Deep Space Nine with Sisko behind him and reporting to him, he asked me during the break, what the hell is LaCroix anyway? So I think it's kind of like...
He said it just like that, too.
Yeah.
I did. Everything Martok says is sort of colored by anger. I don't know why that was.
So LaCroix is it's a flavored sparkling water beverage. I think the best way to describe it, I've heard somebody say that it's like soda with a condom on, basically.
Wow. So we're getting dirty on the 7th Rule.
Well, it's because it kind of almost has a flavor, but kind of doesn't. It's got no sugar. Some people, I've seen it described as the flavors being hint of lime, or
it almost has a flavor.
Or with
that's a frustrating drink. I would call. Almost has
I'm with
a flavor.
I'm with you, JG.
Yeah, man.
There are a lot of
man.
flavors. One of them.
Right.
So yeah, are there any questions from the? What do you have, about 250,000 listeners now? Is that, how do you measure these things?
Yeah, I think we've got 2 questions.
Well, because you were so kind to join us at the last minute, we weren't able to really, reach out and get more, but we've got some. So Ryan's got one for you. Might be able to find another one on the Patreon.
We're about 3 weeks in, and we've got over 5,000 views already on YouTube. I don't know what the measurement is on the radio. More. We have over 1,000.
That's nice. That's good.
Yeah, so it's going really well, and I'm sure it's going to skyrocket after today.
Yeah, and we just went
live
on iHeartRadio, and I know we've had a couple thousand in the last week from that.
Which is outstanding.
Nice.
So here's a question from Dean Lucero. He says, JG, that's you, do fans expect you to converse in Klingon? So that's his first question, and his second question is, who are you picking to win the Super Bowl? So answer those.
Well, the first one is the only time I really had to speak Klingon, not in a song, was the very last episode we shot on board the. We had just defeated the Cardassians, and we were all down. Let's see, Avery and Admiral Ross, rest his soul, and Avery and I were down in the middle of this carnage, and I broke out a bottle of 2309 to celebrate our great victory, and the other 2 guys, Avery and Captain Sisko and Admiral Ross, just sort of poured out their drink of the wine. I gave each a bottle, and they just poured theirs out in protest to the idea of celebrating carnage. Whereas I, as a Klingon, could think of nothing better to celebrate than the massive depopulation of a planet. So he killed like 3 million people.
That's the Klingon.
And as they poured out their celebratory wine, 2309, which you were involved with, Aaron, because you were stealing that wine from my ship at one point.
Well, there was a bigger purpose. Don't fret.
Yeah.
Had it all
there was.
out. Yeah. You only knew that because you read the script. If you didn't read the script,
of course,
you would have never known. So.
No. So I was befuddled by the fact that these guys wouldn't celebrate. So all they had for me to do in the script was to shrug my shoulders and drink the wine. And I said, look, if there was ever a time that Martok has got to say something in Klingon, it's that moment. And so they agreed. And I asked a friend of mine who spoke Klingon, a guy named, what's his last name? Not Chuck Long. It's a different one.
Willery? Chuck Willery?
Oh, yeah. No, Chuck Abernathy. And he said, I said, how do you translate, how do you translate humans? I just don't understand them. How do you translate? And he came up with the Human Pach Kajijiaj, which literally translates to humans. Go figure.
Humans can't live with them.
Can't live with them. Can't live
kill
with
them.
Yeah, can't eat them.
But Human Pach Kajijiaj. Anyway.
So to take that your comment a little bit in speaking Klingon in Discovery, they actually speak a lot of Klingon with subtitles, and that's been, and Ryan can attest that I think the fans, I'm assuming most haven't liked that, or it's been half and half. I personally like it. I like that we hear the Klingon language. I don't mind the subtitles. I know other people don't feel the same as me, and I know on our show we didn't do that very much. Correct? You guys didn't speak Klingon at all. There weren't subtitles.
Well, it brings up a good question. What happened to the universal translator that was basically made the entire show possible?
Well, I mean,
is because
does everybody else speak in English?
Yeah, they're doing entire 10-minute segments and scenes just with Klingon. So of course they're only speaking Klingon to themselves. Right. And so that's why they're trying to keep that authenticity. But a lot of fans are saying, man, I am drifting off, or I'm trying to look at the great background and the backdrop and the production design, but I have to sit there and read all these lines. And also it sounds really choppy because their prosthetics are so much more than the Klingons that we're used to. So it's really like, it's very jarring, you know, and for 10 minutes at a time, people get bored.
I didn't agree at all. And I don't think that's a fair assessment to say because of the makeup per se, because it's really the teeth that really prevent the difficulty with the communication. And for me, I love it. I love that they're speaking in Klingon and there's subtitles. I don't have a problem with that at all, because truthfully, I don't want to stare at the background. I mean, we shouldn't, just like the music of the show, we shouldn't really be focused listening on it. It should just be accentuating and supporting the scene and what's going on. And I love it because it gives
the production design's been fucking outstanding. Like some of the best I've ever seen. So I do actually like looking around and just being wowed by the production design, by the director of photography, you know, the photography of it, it's incredible, you know. Sure,
but, and it should be incredible, but I think as a viewer, you really shouldn't be, all of it should be the experience, not, oh, well, now I'm going to look at all this over here, and then I'm going to look at that, and now I'm going to stare at the makeup, and then I'm going to look there, and I'm going to turn and listen to the music. It should be an experience that you have. And again, this is my opinion, you know, watching something, and I'm a big fan of them speaking Klingon, and I think all the actors have done a phenomenal job. And it's, as we discussed in previous episodes, it's really given a lot of weight for me in the antagonistic role that they've taken and the threatening role that the Klingons have. For you, JG, right, would you have liked that choice if DS9 did that? Or do you like the fact that you didn't have to do that and English was, the predominant language that was spoken for you as well as all the other Klingons on the show, on our show?
Well, there were two things. I have two responses. One is I remember when I said, why do all the Nazis sound like English actors, you know, on various old shows where, war movies and they used English, and I said, London, high British English for everybody playing a Nazi, and I said that doesn't make any sense. Why? And then finally, I think it was the longest day, they put the Nazis in. They were speaking German with subtitles. I think it was that. I'm not sure it was that film, but I liked that because suddenly it was authentic. And but the caveat to that is I don't know the makeup of the Klingons in Discovery. I don't know what the makeup does in terms of covering up the facial expressions of the people. I don't know how much you can get. Really, you can get a lot with the Klingon makeup that was there. There was a lot of possibility for expression, but I don't know what it's like. And if you can't get if you should be able to convey through the makeup with the look that you're basically the look that goes with the words in a foreign language, you should be able to get at least an impression of what they're talking about.
Right.
So you sort of can glance down and pick up the thing. But if all that is covered up with and forces a stillness to the face, I don't know what it is, then it'd be a problem for me.
That is one of the qualms with it, is that there's just so much prosthetic that you're just kind of, you're losing some of the acting, and and Aaron knows as well as I know, because as doing prosthetics as well, is the more prosthetics you have, the harder it is to emote. Now, if you still have your eyes, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
if they're just like covering up your face completely to where it can't really move as well, you know, that's why they usually have headpieces, because that's stagnant, that doesn't move, or earpiece, you know, kind of goes here. But this, your mouth, your eyes, that kind of stuff, as long as you still have that, then you're fine. You know, it's just like wearing.
I don't agree with you, Ryan. I think the actors have done a phenomenal job, because I think they've played the honesty in all the scenes that they have.
The actors.
And no, I don't mean to imply that you are, but my what I'm trying to say is I don't think that's an issue with them speaking Klingon. Or that we can't understand or recognize what's going on because we have to read the subtitles at the same time, because there's a lot in how you speak, and there's also a lot in your body language, and mask work entails a lot than just emoting, quote unquote, through the face.
Right.
And you can see it in the performances that you've seen with JG, myself, Armin, Max, Jeff, all the Renee, who had probably one of the most difficult prosthetic makeup jobs for his character, because it literally covered everything all the way up to the lips. And yet, if you watch him on DS9, he does a phenomenal job. Where when he's talking with Nana at the very beginning, like a counselor, and then other times where he's standing back at Quark, he does so much through his body language that if there were subtitles and he was speaking through subtitles or through another language, I would have no issue with that. And to me, it brings a little bit more authenticity to the Klingons. But right. You know, this is subjective, right?
That's right, and the Klingons do have more makeup than all of those characters, and that's why I think that some people are finding issue, including, it seems, the producers, because in the second season so far they have much less makeup, and we just saw our first views of them in the third season in a newer fashion, and the scenes are better, and they are speaking English. And they do have less makeup, and we are now looking at people in makeup rather than just blocks of prosthetic. So who knows?
Well,
I mean,
Ed,
go ahead.
I gotta say, just from an actor's point of view, Ryan, just if there's a great deal more Klingon being spoken, and the actors are doing it and pronouncing it anywhere near correctly, that's an incredible burden that's been placed on them, because it is hard to speak Klingon.
And they're really
that's true.
It is, and if they're adding a lot more Klingon language, that's a major success for the actors.
So how would you? So would you have liked that, or would you have preferred to do as we did?
Well, I'm always going to take the easiest path to stardom, and so.
Okay, good. That's the answer I was looking for. I'm a little disappointed because I look up to you so much, just because you're tall. But there is the emotional side of it too. And I know it was very difficult for us to work together in that one scene. I would hear a lot, you know, of how intimidating I was to you, you know, when I, you know, had to tell you to move on from the.
I love that scene. That is one of my favorite, if not my favorite scene. Move on, and I'm saying you are very stupid. Very.
You know what was so great about that scene? And I was just making this comment on Facebook to somebody, was your laugh right after you deliver that line. It was just perfect. You're so wonderful. It was such a great little scene, and I'm so blessed that they wrote that, so I got to work with you and meet you. I love that.
Oh, no, we didn't have enough time together, but I wish there was plenty of room for a lot more. I would have loved it. But you know what we've done over the last 20 years? We've spent a lot more time together on stage because of that show. I love it.
Indeed we have. And you know, that's one of the most wonderful things that you and I have gotten from this experience of being part of this world. The fact that we're here together 20 plus years later as friends and enjoying reminiscing about our show and the experiences. I mean, do you think Seinfeld and Costanza get together and and be able to talk about their experiences? Maybe they do. Maybe it would be worth listening to.
I'm sure they do, but I'm just thinking maybe they suffer from the same situation that we do. Maybe Kramer and what's her name? Costanza and her name.
Julia.
Yeah, what's her character?
Elaine.
Yeah. I think they probably get together like the Fab Four, like
the Beatles?
Sulu and Uhura and Jimmy Doohan and
Maybe.
Walter.
I don't know.
They never quite. What?
No. I you said they never quite.
They never quite spent as much time with Shatner. They didn't get it. He was just sort of out of their little circle. And I think the same thing might be true about Seinfeld, that Jerry was like, geez, I wish I could make it. I just can't,
Yeah.
What's his name? Oh, I love Galaxy Quest. If that wasn't clear by now.
Very clear. Very clear,
yeah.
My friend.
Because, Alan Rickman, for heaven's sakes, I'm a Shakespearean actor!
That's why you got the role!
Yeah, with his prosthetic peeling off from both temples and his hair sticking out.
You see, that's what I wanted from Orville. I guess I wanted more Galaxy Quest in Orville. I'm a Mel Brooks fan. I love Spaceballs, so I wanted more of that. I'm not a Family Guy fan, so I didn't want the toilet humor. I really wanted an homage to Star Trek because there's so many fun things to tease. We got one last question, JG, and then we're gonna have to wrap up this show. And we're gonna have to do a second parter because it's just too much fun having you on the show. And this one goes to me as well, so I can ask it to both of us, but you answer first.
Good.
Who is a Star Trek actor that you haven't really worked with yet that you would really love to have a scene with, whether you are Martok, I'm Nog, or you're in another role? Is there somebody in our universe that you would really like to work with that person?
The one I, of course, admired most, and it would have to be an incredibly strangely but well-written scene, but I would have loved to have been able to work with DeForest Kelley. McCoy is the guy for me. I enjoyed. In fact, he was sort of Klingon. He was sort of grumpy about everything.
It's a curmudgeon.
So, maybe that's why I liked him so much. Yeah, I love DeForest. Bones McCoy. How about yourself?
There's an individual who I was fortunate to meet in our Star Trek world that there's something about her that I really, really love. There's an energy about her that I would just love to work with and connect with, and that's Alice Krige. I just think she's amazing, and I would just love to work with her on something. If it was a play, if it was back on something in Star Trek and in anything, because whenever I get a chance to talk to her, when I met her the first time, she's connected. She's right there with you. She's not distracted. She's not looking at something and go, oh, yeah. She is literally 120% invested in you and being there in the present with you. And I experienced that with Avery Brooks. When I did, in the scenes that I had with Avery, especially when Nog in Heart of Stone, the thing I enjoyed so much with working with Avery was his presence. He was present 100% in my scenes with him. And to be honest, everybody was on the show.
Which episode was Heart of Stone?
What?
Which episode was Heart of Stone?
That was when I asked him to recommend me to Starfleet, to sponsor me to Starfleet.
Okay, right.
And well, I'll finish with this little note, and then we'll finish with if you have a little something to give that you had the same experience on our show with. But with Avery, what was so wonderful in that scene is he always threw the ball and then got it back, threw the ball back, and we were just connected in it. And in the rehearsal, he never grabbed me. He didn't say, "Tell me, Nog, tell me what it is." And so we rehearsed it, and then when we were rolling, he grabbed me by the arms and pulled me in. And Avery's got a very strong spirit. He's very strong. And when he grabbed me, I remember like it was yesterday going, "Oh man, just roll with it. Fucking roll with it. Just go with it. Just live in that moment." And I did. And then I felt like because of what he gave me, it brought more out of me in that scene, especially when I break down and say because of my father. And I feel Alice Krieger would be the same way. She would just be right in there, and that's the joy of acting for me. When we work with people like you and Mark and Max and Cirroc, everybody is so committed. So,
well, regarding Alice Krieger, Bob and I got a chance to work with her in a convention, just one convention.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I mean, I couldn't agree more. There's a movie that she was very young called Ghost Story, but it starred Fred Astaire.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, geez, I can't remember their names. But that era of old actors where she was murdered by them as a young woman, and they were young men, and she comes back as a ghost. Anyway, she is the embodiment for me, the definition of the word exquisite. Everything she does is exquisite.
Yeah.
And regarding Avery, I owe Avery so much because we had a scene where what?
No, I know the scene. I'm sorry. It's very. I wasn't trying to interrupt. I was laughing because I know exactly the story. But tell it. We'll finish on the story.
Well,
It's a great story.
Avery and Renee and Colum Meany had been translated into Klingons, and they were complete Klingons. And I had somehow arrested them all because I didn't trust them, and I put them in a cell. And I had this long scene between Avery and myself, with Renee and Colum in the background. And Renee and Colum were having a fabulous time complaining to themselves about dressing up as Klingons. They hated the costume, they hated the makeup, and they were having a terrible time back in the back, just sort of making fun of everything. And I had this very long and involved speech through the bars at Avery, who was there listening to me. And the bars are like 4 or 5 inches wide. And if you move a half an inch, you're suddenly out of focus or out of the bars blocking too much of your, anyway, it's very precise. And I had this long speech and that was hard enough. But at some point, the guys back in the background were screwing around so much that Avery turned to them and he said, "Listen, there is a man working up here.
Yeah.
There is a man, an artist, working. You will pay attention." And then they stopped like children with their hands in cookie jars. They stopped and they were afraid they were going to be kicked off the show, kicked off the spaceship.
Yeah.
But Avery brought that because of the power he has, as you were saying, Armin. He's got the presence and the power. You don't mess around with that. I mean, anyway. And I owe him a great debt for that reason.
But also because he was right, and that's something where when somebody yells it and they're wrong, there might be some murmurs. But if somebody yells that out and they're right, then they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, he's right. What are we doing?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're out of time, sadly. But I do want to thank that you know, you, JG, for joining the rest of the Lizard League or whatever that short film was.
No, the Reptile Rangers.
The Reptile Rangers.
Oh,
Yes.
my apologies. We're here with the stars of Reptile Rangers.
Ryan, it is unavailable anywhere except on my bookshelves. I have several copies.
So when you see JG at a convention, please ask him for a copy of the Rescue Rangers.
Reptile
Ranger. I'll bring plenty of CDs along.
Oh, what a relief! What a relief! We can.
We just have to upload it, JG, and make it available for download for all the world to see.
You know, you're right. I have never done that. You're right. I should do that.
Good. I mean,
I'll talk to you about that, Aaron.
All right. And JG,
thank you so much.
Before you take us out, Ryan, JG, thank you so much for joining us on the show, especially at the last minute. And man, I love you so much, and it's just always a pleasure to spend time with you, and to hear your voice and have you on here with us means a lot to me. So thank you.
I know it does, and I'm glad you get a kick out of it because deservedly so. No, thank you, Aaron. I love it too. And you didn't. I forgot to answer one question. Who are you picking in the Super Bowl? And I am a dyed-in-the-wool until yesterday, a New England Patriots fan, because Tom Brady is a tall, skinny guy with no apparent athletic ability and certainly not much of a muscle anywhere. But he's been able to be the greatest of all time. And it reminded me of Joe Montana. So that's why I liked him. But the fact that that Robert Kraft went on Fox News and spoke about he and Tom being these huge Trump fans, I said, I just can't see it. I'm really torn because now I'll be watching the game and appreciating the professionalism in the game, but I cannot root for either side, or I could root for both sides.
No, go Rams! Go Rams!
Yeah, I do. I have a sneaking suspicion that the Rams, because of their youth, because of Sean McVay, and because of the athletes on that team, I have a feeling they're going to win.
All right. Well, I'm rooting for the Rams.
You heard it
when I was a kid, I was a Rams fan with Pat Hayden and Vince Ferragamo.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, see, there you go, right? And maybe Pat Hayden somewhere is excited for today, so as well as Vince and the young blood.
I watched,
young blood.
I used to watch Merlin Olsen, you know.
Yeah.
What was the name of their front line?
The
that was when the Minnesota Purple People Eaters were going on, and Merlin Olsen was playing for the Rams, and Bob Lilly was playing for the it was Bob Lilly for the Cowboys versus Merlin Olsen on the Rams.
I think their line was called the Reptile Rangers, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, man.
JG, thank you. I love you, man. Thank you so
Aaron.
much.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, bud. Bye-bye.
Thanks for mentioning Joe Montana, by the way. I'm a 49er fan, so who cares?
I am for life. He is my hero.
Thanks very much.
All right, man.
We'll talk
Cheers,
soon.
man.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back. If you don't want any spoilers about the new Discovery episode, go ahead and stop now. If you do want spoilers and want to hear all about what we think about Discovery, then stay tuned. We'll be right back with the 7th rule, by the way.
Keep your ears open.
That's right.
Ears open.
Ears open. Hello and welcome back to the 7th rule. JG has left us. He's going to go party and do some Super Bowl stuff. And Jarrod, Aaron, and myself are going to discuss episode 3 of season 2 of Discovery. Before we get too deep into anything, during the break, Jarrod said he was livid, just livid about something with the newest episode. Let's hear it, Jarrod.
Okay, so spoiler alert, by the way, if you're listening to this, you haven't seen the episode, stop, go watch it, or just keep listening and be prepared.
Yeah, tough shit. Go ahead.
So Tilly is seeing this spirit that's obviously communicating with her. It's possessed her. It's all that good stuff. And she thinks she's going crazy. And then she finally talks to Stamets and everybody. It's like, oh, there's this thing inside of me. Their first instinct is to rip it out of her. And, you know, At no point did she or anybody else say, talk to it, find out what it wants. It's obviously it's looking for stamets about something. Find out what it wants. That never happened. The first instinct was, you know what? Rip it out, be done.
You know, and just to jump in on that, the way they ripped it out for a second, I was like, am I watching Ghostbusters?
Yes.
I thought the episode was really good, but my eyes rolled back so hard they almost fell into my butt. Like I was just like, what am I watching here at 1 a.m? I stayed up to watch Ghostbusters all of a sudden, which is one of the best movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely thought that somebody should have been told no in the writer's room.
You know, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. It was absolutely Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And I did think it was odd that they used the same tool to rip it out of her that they used on the asteroid. I'm like, they don't have anything else? Isn't there some other way to get this out of her? Now, I didn't mind so much that they took it out of her right away, because I do know after watching it that that storyline is going to continue somehow.
Right.
So, but I did ask, you know, that she kept wanting to talk to Stamets, and she had something to say to him, and I wanted to know what that was.
Right.
So I was kind of feeling like cheated that they got rid of her and did what you just said, Jarrod, because they should have actually had her say whatever she wanted to say to tell that story. But obviously, the way you see the trailer afterwards for upcoming episodes, and it's going to come out later. But that leads to my overall feeling about this episode, that I realized what was bugging me. They had too many stories going on. They had 3 stories going on in this show. And I'm like, why are they trying to tell all these at the same time, when I would rather have almost like an episode that they had last week, where they have a mission where something's happening and one of those stories is being told through that mission. That was all we really needed. And I don't think we have to keep hinting at Spock. We've done that enough. They could have gotten rid of that scene, although I like the mom coming back, and focused on maybe Tilly dealing with her inadequacy, mental capacity because of this fungus, I think it was a fungus, in an away mission that would lead to the ending of however it coming out of her, or whatever the recognition was. And then maybe on the next episode, dealing with the Klingon situation. I felt that would have been a little bit more enjoyable to me. You know, rather than all 3 of them nice and short, you know.
Well, and what they're doing, and the reason for that is because they're clearly trying to be Game of Thrones in space. They may deny it or they may admit it, but we all know they're trying to be Game of Thrones in space. Now, Game of Thrones usually is going to have 5, 6, 7, 8 storylines going on during that hour. So what they're trying to do, it seems, is kind of blend the two, not be as extreme and as scattered as Game of Thrones, which is done masterfully by them, by the way, and not be just so single episodic like, say, Next Generation. They're trying to be kind of an amalgamation of both. And so they're going to have 3, maybe even like a 4th minor storyline, but it's going to kind of blend. And I actually think that episode 3 worked better. You know, like I keep saying, their writing is getting better. To me personally, the writing isn't there yet. And I am grading it on a very difficult curve, because there's just some incredible writing in television going on right now, like whether it's Game of Thrones, like I mentioned, or other great writings in completely different genres, like This Is Us is unbelievable, Glow, The Sinner, you know, there are a lot of really, really good, you know, television shows out there. So Discovery, they've got their work cut out for them. So what used to cut the mustard as great writing, you know, 10, 5, 20 years ago, doesn't really count as great writing now. And they're working their way up. They're getting there, and they're definitely good, and they're definitely great at their job. But I think they continue to improve, and I'm happy to see that. And I think episode 3 was a solid episode. I think everybody that watched it was overall happy with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was happy with it, but what I realized that I like, which is actually goes against, if they did what I like, I probably would have never had all the stories that I had on DS9. I didn't like the splitting of 3 stories. As a matter of fact, I'm realizing I don't like so much an A and B story. I really like them to tell a story and then bring other elements within that journey in that story, if that makes sense. And I felt they did that more so in the previous episode. I love, though, the elements that they are bringing forth. So whether I'd rather it be all told in one episode, I enjoy the struggle that Ash is going through with L'Rell. I loved how that played out towards the end with Section 31. I'd love to have an episode where we talk about Section 31, because I still struggle with the idea that Section 31 is here in the sense of with the Federation. And then I think, how would Nog deal with that? And part of me is like, Nog would not like Section 31, just because I think Nog puts a lot of, in my mind, puts Federation up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
At least where he's at the end of DS9, that he wouldn't do anything against the ideals of Federation, because he's joined in on that idea, on that ideology. But I also think Nog is very smart and very pragmatic, and if he realized as years go by how much bureaucracy he had to deal with and how many things could have gotten done for the better good, I think he might then eventually start to change and go, maybe Section 31 is beneficial to us in the end game, as the ends justify the means. I could see Nog eventually getting there, which is another interesting idea. But I love the Ash story. I also love the whole Spock thing. I felt it was kind of a repeat in this one, and then just bringing her mom in, and then giving a little bit more that there was a problem, that she did something really bad to Spock. I felt that was a bit redundant, and we could have taken that out and given more to the Klingon story as well as Tilly's story. But this will be the last thing, then I'm talking too long. You brought up music last week, so I listened to it a little bit more. And I loved how when Pike said, "That makes 3," about Spock, and the music changed and became more like, now the adventure begins. Now we're going to do something. And I really like the subtlety in that music that they did there, and I was listening to it a little bit more, and it is really nice. It is very nice, and it's almost like, remember when the spore drive in season 1 and all the spores were falling? I feel like that's how the music is.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of is layered inside, supporting, which is exactly what it should do.
It's very layered. It's very layered. They bring in all these elements, and I love the theme song has that too. You know, it's got a little bit of the original series. It's got a little bit of this, and that. Actually, the composer of that, I believe, was the composer of Fringe. I didn't get to throw that in when we were talking about Fringe, but there's a connection there, right? Is that right, Jarrod? Yeah.
Russo.
Larry Russo, I think it is. Somewhere.
Before we leave from the Klingons, when did she have this baby? I mean, I sat there and they're like, "Oh, it was after you got sent off to go be on Boreth and this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Okay, 5 months. When did she have this baby?" You know, it's very, and where's this kid been this entire time? You know, it's just weird for me that.
And that's something that might be explained later, or they might just sweep it under the rug. We don't know, but they've done a good job of at least addressing many of the questions, like saying, "Don't worry, we know you guys have questions. It'll be addressed later." So hopefully it will. I would think that it won't be, but there's a good chance that it will be addressed.
And they did address why Klingons look different. You know, there was the line, post-war, Klingons are growing their hair again.
Mm-hmm.
Michael says that. So again, a small, subtle way of saying, this is why they look different. Now we're getting more closer to the way Klingons.
Absolutely, but they didn't. But they don't address the fact that their heads are half the size than they were, and they don't address the fact that the prosthetics are half as much as they were. But we get it. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
L'Rell had a facelift. She's Chancellor now. She can get some plastic surgery.
She absolutely had a facelift. The back of her head was sanded down to half the size.
Yeah, but you can also see as time goes on and a generation goes on or generations go on, how things may change, you know? And maybe they'll address that later as well. Maybe they're just trying to sprinkle in some of that stuff here and there to keep you going along. And I did like I felt I saw Darth Maul show up with the lightsaber. I thought that was kind of cool.
Let's just not address the Klingon with the mohawk. I'm not sure how I feel about a Klingon with the mohawk. I mean, Like, okay, I guess that's cool. I guess some people want a biker Klingon or whatever, but thought that was a little weird. Jarrod said he loved it.
But also understand if you've never watched Star Trek before, you can come into this and not probably feel that way. Like, oh, cool, Klingons, very
right.
Very however they very warlike, and I feel it's fine. That doesn't take me out. Those things aren't taking me out of the show at all. As a matter of fact, I don't feel like anything is really taking me out. This one took me out as there was too many stories they're trying to tell at once. That's the only thing that kind of bothered me. There was something else I was going to say.
Well, before you jump into that, I do want to address what you're saying right then, which is the new viewers. And I realized something, maybe a month ago. They can't have any new viewers because it's on CBS All Access for pay. So the only people that are going to pay to watch Discovery
that's
are
a good point.
Current fans. If it's not on television, they don't have the possibility of getting new fans. So I did a poll.
Argue with that because I went to more than one convention last year with a Star Trek panel that was full of people that Discovery was the first Trek they had ever seen.
Sure. And so I actually had, I wondered about that, because some people might be, pirating it or they watch the first 2 episodes or something like that. And so I did a poll in my, I run a Star Trek Discovery group, which is the biggest Discovery group in the world. It's almost 40,000 people. I did a poll just to say, hey, how many of you have Discovery as your first Star Trek experience? How many of you, were never fans before? And it was a fraction of 1%.
Yeah, but that's a Facebook group that really real fans are probably going to join more than, hey, I just started watching Star Trek. Is there a Facebook group I could be a part of?
Of course, but it's still an indicator. I mean, it's not 30%. It's not 10%. It's not even 1%. It's a very small, and that goes with conventional wisdom. We would expect that who's going to watch it? Now, I think CBS is also thinking about that and saying, how do we get new viewers? Which also jumps into the fact that they released episode 1 of season 2 on YouTube, which was a smart move to counterbalance that so that they could say, hey, those of you that have never watched Star Trek and don't want to pay $10 because you've never seen it, check it out and see what you're missing. And I bet it worked a little bit to some degree.
Well, and I think that could have been too for the existing real Trek fans that, that's not my Star Trek. Look, we made some changes. Watch this. And
absolutely
more
agree.
To your testing.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, especially with the new shows coming. One of the questions I asked in this show is you see a lot of story development so far in the first 3 episodes with Michael and Spock. Tilly trying to figure out and find her legs as a cadet and wanting to go forward. I feel like she should be more confident at times, which is kind of bugging me. I feel like she's kind of staying the same every time she's with Captain. She's kind of less confident, and I feel like, especially after a whole season, I think she should be more confident in areas. But I'm okay with that journey. And then you also have the Klingon story and Ash's journey and dealing with the mix of his obvious love for Michael as well as L'Rell. That battle and that duality, and then especially what happens at the end. He has to let her go as well as his child, which is really interesting. But I want to know also, what's Pike's journey going to be? What's his struggle? What about Saru? Right now, they're just kind of doing their thing, right? And they've got great characters. Saru seems very empathetic, very compassionate, very patient, almost like a very paternal / maternal feeling to the whole crew. And Pike is a great captain who's open to everybody, like he said at the beginning. I want everybody to have a seat at the table, and yet has strong leadership. But what's their challenge? We're getting everybody else's challenge and struggles. I want to know what theirs is going to be. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if they're going to develop anything in that capacity.
I got a couple things to jump on, piggyback on that. I totally agree. And then notice the paternal thing with Saru. He's almost becoming that role for now, until they can do more things or more episodes focused more on him. And it was very much delivered that intention was delivered when he yelled at Sylvia Tilly. You know, he said when she was like freaking out on the bridge, he says like, Ensign Sylvia Tilly, and it was almost like, ooh, you're in trouble. You know?
Go to your room.
Like there was that moment where that's what snapped her out of it, because that's the guy that can snap her out of it.
Yeah.
If I was to say anything about Saru right now, is he's got Chakotay syndrome, and that there's so many people, he really, there's nothing to do with him because he's just there to be the other person in command.
That's right. That's right. Now to jump on the other thing that you were saying about, oh shoot, what was that other point? I always get lost as soon as somebody says half a sentence because my brain doesn't work.
Half a sentence.
Ah, shit. Pike. How are we going to learn more about Pike? And yeah, we're starting to like him more. They're developing him more. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about his arc next episode, because they gave a little preview for episode 4, and who is there? Number 1. Number one is his first officer.
Mm-hmm.
So when she comes in, we're going to see, you know, how they relate, what they're talking. Are they dating? Maybe, who knows? You know, maybe she's really tough and he's, you know, and or maybe she's docile compared to him. But we're going to see a little bit more of his personality and his mission. Or maybe she's going to divulge some secrets, like saying, "Hey, so you know how, or is this, you know, channel secure? So what really happened to the Enterprise was blah 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 blah. You know, that kind of stuff."
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy Discovery. So, and I like the stories that they're telling. So it's a lot of fun, and I liked how we end at the end. You know, we finish the hero was I wouldn't say hero, maybe anti-hero. And there's a reason why she's doing it. She's not doing it out of the good of her heart, but Giorgio, right, saving the day with L'Rell and Ash, and Section 31 making an appearance, and then Ash joining them. So they're hinting that Ash is going to join Section 31, and it made me think very American politics of, you know, we need you as the leader of the Klingons coming in. And it felt very much like America going into any country going, nope, we want you to be in charge of this country. And then it made me think, ooh, I don't know if I like that in this world with the Federation. And maybe that's why I'm like, Nog wouldn't be okay with that, because I don't know how I really feel about that yet. And this is what I was hoping we could talk about, maybe as an extra on the show, about Section 31. I started researching it more, and I haven't, and this is been able to watch all the DS9 episodes and how Section 31 affected that. But I was looking into what Sisko did with Bashir, and I'm like, oh, that's really, and then I think, how would Nog feel about that? And I think Nog wouldn't like that. Personally, young Nog, now 20 years later, Nog might be different based on the experiences that he has. So is that why we have a Section 31? And anyway, I find that really interesting. And last note, so you guys can chime in, the fact that Giorgio's in charge and put there, who is Control, what is Control, and why would you take somebody that was pretty much a villain in the other world, who even in this world is still a villain, and have her there? And the only heart you see with her, the only compassion or, you know, altruistic, is when it comes to Michael, because of her own connection to Michael on the other side. And I was thinking, who would do that? Why would they do that? And isn't that incredibly risky? But time will tell.
Watching that scene on the Section 31 ship, one of the things that struck me afterwards is that was great set decorating. If you wouldn't have known that that was the Bridge of the Shinzo, you would have never picked up on it.
Oh, because I didn't pick up on it.
If you remember the set of the Bridge of the Shinzo,
obviously I didn't.
Yeah, the view screen of it was in the floor.
Oh,
I mean, one of the first scenes of the show is
good call.
And they just took that bit out and built under it. So the top part of the Section 31 ship is the Bridge of the Shinzo.
Cool. You know,
I didn't catch that.
And this will be, Aaron, your homework last week was to listen to the music. On that note, something I really noticed again, this last time was just how incredibly impressive the production design and the photography is on the show. It's really mind-blowing. Like, you know, we do criticize certain aspects that we think as fans could use a little bit more work. And I think it's also important to point out the things, you know, without just pandering, but just saying, you know, factually, you know, professionally speaking, it's like an A+. It's almost a clinic in production design. The Klingon sets are phenomenal. Their attention to detail, their attention to lighting, their attention especially to color and color scheme.
And costume design too.
It's unbelievable. The coloring, the color schemes that they use are brilliant. And I'm sure they just have meetings after meetings just discussing like what colors they want on the Klingon homeworld or on this ship or in this scene. You know,
I think that's maybe why they have 20+ producers.
Yeah.
They had 20 producers exactly this week on producer count. And one more thing before we go away, and I'm only saying this because I know there are people who will comment on the video. You know, Jarrod didn't pick up on this. Yes, there was a comment at the end of the episode by Section 31 mentioning control. Who is control? What is control? There is a book out there, a Section 31 book series by David Mack, and it is about control specifically. The name of the book is actually Section 31 Control. We have no confirmation either way if it is the same or different. So
well, we'll find out.
Yep, I'm just going to acknowledge that book exists, but I'm not going to tell everybody to go read it quite yet until we know it's the same thing.
Or you could go read it real quick and see what happens, and then see if it ends up being the same thing.
Sure.
Well, I give the episode a thumbs up. Although out of the 3 so far, it's my least favorite, just because it was talking too much. Although one of the things I really liked that we didn't talk about was the directing. I loved that the camera was always moving slightly, and there was much more movement with the actors that I felt was less in the last episode. In the last episode, I felt things were more static. They were more cut, and the camera wasn't just even slightly moving. In this one, much more movement. Even when, like, let's say Michael and her mom were talking, the camera was still moving slightly this way. Cut to the mom, it was slightly moving this way. Cut to a faraway shot, and it was panning, trucking. It was moving slightly over to the right or to the left, and it gave a little bit more motion to the scenes that I enjoyed.
One other comment, and then this is just me. Something I picked up on. Apparently, if they're going to introduce new merchandise into Star Trek, they're going to do it via Tilly running.
Yeah, I saw that too. The new disco shirt, but it's a little different than what
it's the command training program,
but
not the
but
regular.
Tilly shouldn't have won. You know why? She shouldn't have won, because that would have been the first clue to the others that, hey, what's wrong?
Something's wrong. That's right.
Yeah, it was too easy that she won. She should have subverted him, said, is everything all right? Yeah. Well, usually you're on top of it, but you seem to have you were like far behind everybody. I don't know why they had her win. See, that's the stuff that bothers me, because it's too easy. Then, of course she wins. She should have been in 3rd or 2nd, And then even Saru's like, hey, you're a little bit slower than you've been in the last several cycles. What's going on? Nothing. I'm fine. Okay, just checking. Something seemed off. And that builds to her explosion on the set. And
that's right.
So that's enough.
I totally agree with that. And that's kind of what we're talking about when we're saying like the writing, or when I'm saying the writing is improving, is that there are still these things where like it's too on the nose, that like they don't trust their audience to be smarter than this. Michael always has to be right. Michael always has to win. Tilly has to win. Saru always has to be scared. Pike is going to always have to cow to Michael. Stamets is going to be always a little weird. You know what I mean? Like give us a little bit more depth. We're smart enough. We can figure it out. It's okay if Tilly comes in 2nd. We won't be like, well, I don't like Tilly anymore. She's It's okay, you guys. You can put her in 2nd place. It works for the story.
Yeah.
We don't only like characters because they win all the time.
No, and as a matter of fact, and we should wrap this up here, but maybe I'll wrap it with this. People often don't like Valiant from Deep Space Nine, and others do. And I'm a huge fan of Valiant for
Which one
this.
is Valiant?
Valiant was the Red Squad episode in DS9 where Ego gets the best of him, right? And someone I was commenting with one of them on one of the new groups you had me a part of, the shit posting one, right?
Star Trek shit posting. Shout out to them for being so supportive.
Big shout out, and they've been very supportive. And to be honest, I love the group. They're
hilarious, aren't they?
Are. Yeah.
They deserve all the shout outs we could give them.
This is like the second time you've broken a Facebook group.
Oh, I haven't broken it.
You broke the Deep Space Nine one too. So
I didn't break it. But what's it called? Say it again. The Star Trek shit posting, right? Okay. Great group. So anyway, one guy said I really didn't like Valiant. I said, I disagree. Because he said, well, Nog's too smart to make that to do that. And I go, that's why I love it. Because he is smart. He's very smart. Yet he was still vulnerable to his ego. And he fell and failed in that episode, but he's given another chance to pick himself up and take himself forward. And I think because of that experience of failure, that makes him a better Starfleet officer and captain someday. And those are the experiences that we, all of us, you, me, go through in life that make us who we are. And if we're always winning the race, quote unquote, then we don't really pick ourselves up and learn from those failures that make us better. And that's why I think those failures is really what makes great characters grow in a show, especially when they can learn from them. And maybe they shouldn't learn from them right away. Maybe it takes a couple times for some. Maybe some figure it out right away. And that's why I love Valiant, because they took that risk of Nog's epic failure, right, with major consequences. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. So
totally agree. Jarrod disagrees wholeheartedly, though.
Well, I just think it gets back to.
Oh, he does.
I just think that gets back to when people like that episode or hate it, like they're very polar, what their definition of Star Trek is.
Yeah.
Because you see that, I mean, that's the one thing on the Discovery board, and I'm got a little side project I'm going to be announcing soon that's going to deal with it. You see Discovery, not my Trek, not Star Trek, not this. Well, what Star Trek is very personal. And so if there's an episode or a series that doesn't line up with it, that really impacts it. And I wonder what each individual person, what their definition is. Is it they didn't like Valiant because, this isn't what it reminds me of when Enterprise came out, and when the novelizations came out, there was a very prevalent author at the time who loved TOS and hated everything else. And when she wrote the novelization of the pilot of Enterprise, bashed it the entire time. Talked about how stupid the captains were, how stupid the plot was, everything. And I'm like, there's people that love Enterprise, there's people that love Valiant, but then there's that other side. And I think it's each individual person, what is Star Trek to them. Valiant's a good episode. It's very great. It's basically the First Duty from Next Gen made over.
I agree.
But either way, it's
First Duty.
First Duty. Yeah. It's the episode.
Next Generation.
It's a TNG episode where Robbie McNeil first appeared. And it was the same thing where there's a little squad and Wesley's a part of it, and then there's something that goes wrong. Should we cover it up? Should there, there's a whole duty thing.
And they're called Nova Squadron, which is similar to Red Squad, and they're pretty much the elite pilots. And Robbie McNeil is basically Tom Paris, but with a different name, Nicholas Locarno, I believe.
Nick Locarno.
And then, somebody dies. It's all interesting. It takes place in Starfleet Academy, which is very close to my house. Let's do a field trip there. I totally agree. Very similar episode.
I didn't know that.
I think we're almost out of time here. I did want to throw one more thing in about Pike, and I do mention the Facebook group because it gives us a nice little barometer of things. This is something I wasn't aware of, but apparently the fellow Anson Mount that plays Christopher Pike is now being touted as the hottest, sexiest man in all of Star Trek ever. And it's not even close. It's mind-blowing how not close it is. Like, I did a poll, and second place doesn't even have half the votes that he does. It's shocking. So
but you didn't.
Who is second place?
Well, if you give me a moment, I'll give it a.
But Ryan, you didn't put Nog on there, so that.
Oh, he's there.
He's there.
No.
And you even let us vote for 3 people.
That's right.
Yep, I voted for 3.
Who were your votes, by the way?
I'm trying to remember.
Try really hard.
Tom Paris was 1.
Nicholas Lacarno, you mean?
No, Tom Paris. Trip from Tucker. Trip from Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if I did Pike or somebody else. I don't know.
We just need something Anson carries a mug in and says Pike's Place.
Okay, so currently, second place with a little bit more than a third of the votes of the first place Pike is Trip Tucker.
Okay.
And third place is Carl Urban's Bones McCoy. From
it's really breaking my heart that Nog isn't up there higher. I mean, I am.
Okay.
I am
and
a
Lorca
sex
is 4th, by the way.
I am a huge success.
Wait, who's 4?
Lorca.
Lorca's 4. Okay, Trip Tucker's going to get it because he was prone to spending episodes running around in his underwear.
Plus, he's a good looking dude. Okay, Nog got a vote.
Okay, I did it. I voted for myself.
No. It was David R. Carpenter. So kudos to David R. Carpenter.
Thank you, David.
Being honest.
That. Only one, huh? Really, people? Really? Wow. You just can't see through the lobes. You got to recognize the lobes. It's all in the lobes, but that hurts. I'm very sad right now. This is a bad way to end the show.
Well, we can get you a second vote by next week.
I hope so. Somebody, please go out there and just vote for Nog. It's okay. You can love a Ferengi.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man. Melissa loves me.
One thing I want to throw in here before the show is we've got our Patreon, and one of the things that is a tier that's up there is you're going to be able to be a part of a roundtable for those of us. Those people that subscribed last month, as in the month of January, you're going to be getting an email from either myself or Aaron really soon where we're going to schedule that roundtable. It'll be just like this, and you'll be able to talk to us and interact. If you haven't gone over to our Patreon page yet, please do. Just go over to Patreon, see 7th Rule, and you'll see the tier there. You can go ahead and sign up this month for the next roundtable. But like I said, the one we're scheduling now is for the people from January. There'll be another one for the people from February later on.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. And thank you guys for signing up. Thanks for tuning in, keeping your ears open, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
And speaking of February, happy Black History Month to all of those of you that are alive. No, but come on, we love Black History Month. We've had.
Of course, I just thought that was funny. That are alive.
That are alive. Okay.
I kind of painted myself into a corner. I said, for those of you, wait, but that should be for everybody.
Yeah, you're like, where am I going with this? That are alive. Happy to everybody that's alive.
So for our super producer, Jarrod Cooper, Aron Eisenberg, Cirroc Lofton, I'm Ryan T. Husk, and always remember the 7th Rule.